Well, for more on natural and cultural heritage site protection in China, we're joined by our current affairs commentator, Victor Gao. Welcome to the show, Victor.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, just on the UNESCO World Heritage listings, China has more than 30 natural and cultural sites listed. So which ones tend to attract the bulk of the tourists?
I think for China, with a civilization of more than 5,000 years, continuous civilization, to have about 30 sites being recognized as the World Heritage Site by UNESCO is not enough. However, among the 30 or so heritage sites, the Great Wall definitely comes out as very much on the top of the list. I myself, one of the cultural envoy for one of the heritage sites in the ruins of Ying, which is more than 3,300 years old. And I would say that for the Great Wall, for example, lots of tourists, both in China as well as from abroad, want to have a look at the Great Wall. Many want to have other experiences on the Great Wall. And I think the government need to come up with a more unified way to protect the heritage sites, both on the UNESCO list as well as on the domestic Chinese list. And only in this way can we have a more unified system and policy for preserving this great heritage of mankind. And the future generations of mankind in China and elsewhere can still enjoy that magnificence and the splendor for generations to come.
Now, Victor, some people might be wondering if some of the revenue that some of these international sites really bring. So in terms of that, and perhaps using some of that money to go towards preserving areas like the Great Wall, how much revenue are some of these visitors really bringing in?
For those sites along the Great Wall, which have been developed as tourist sites, definitely I don't think there is a shortage of money. However, the Great Wall travels for tens of thousands of kilometers, and many of these sections of the Great Wall are not classified as tourist sites. You cannot actually collect tickets from tourists for visiting these sites. Therefore, I think we need to differentiate at least into two parts of the Great Wall: those which can be used as tourist sites, those which are very much in their natural form and shape. Both kinds of the Great Wall need to be preserved for the future generation. And I think probably the better way is to come up with a foundation nationwide and also open to international participation, whereby the foundation can come up with unified policy for the preservation work to be done, and people, mostly on a voluntary basis, can donate their time and efforts and resources and money, if they want to participate in this great work of preserving the Great Wall for the future generations to come.
Now, Victor, we also saw a lot of controversy over attempts to try and fix areas of the Great Wall using this mixture of lime and sand or cement that ended up smoothing out parts of it. So what can be done to balance preserving these sites while also allowing for economic development in these areas?
Definitely, the episode you talked about in the so-called preserving of the Great Wall was actually a misstep. And I think now many people in China have agreed that this is the wrong way to do the preservation. Part of the reason is that there is no unified method and the policies for how people need to do the preservation work for the Great Wall. And I think this needs to be corrected in the future. There need to be a unified way, tested and accepted by the general public as well as the scholars and the professionals, so that wherever you go along the Great Wall, in order to do the preservation work, you have a standard guidebook or a roadmap to have in your hand to do the preservation work. This will help actually in a more efficient and effective way to preserve the great work. The government funding is only part of the funding because it's not enough to do the preservation work for the total length of the Great Wall. We need to mobilize the funding and the donation and the charitable contribution from all walks of life in society, both in China and elsewhere, so that the Great Wall, in all conditions, in all sections throughout the total length of the Great Wall, can be well preserved for future generations of mankind.
Certainly requires a team effort. Thank you so much. We'll have to leave it there. Current Affairs commentator Victor Gao.